The first of three public celebration events that we're conducting here, celebrating our 40 years of service to the community. During this event, we'll rechristen Bus 2819, a 1950 RT double-deck bus that once provided service in London. Later today at 6 p.m., we'll host a panel discussion in the Shields Library where we'll honor some of the founders of Unitrans and some people who made some important milestones for Unitrans over the last 40 years. And tomorrow from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m., we'll operate double-deck buses on the original two routes that we operated back in 1968. That will be fare-free, so bring your families on out and hope you can ride those buses. You can go on our website to see the actual times and the routes. We've got some schedules over here too. We chose to celebrate 2819 today because it represents our past, our present, and our future. This bus operates in a service by the end of today that will have carried will reached a new milestone. We'll have carried 48 million people by the end of today. So it's a big milestone for us. This bus over here is very unique in that it's the only double-deck bus in the world that we know of that operates on clean burning natural gas. And that bus was converted by our staff, our career staff and student staff that works on the buses. So that again is another milestone. Compressed natural gas is an alternative fuel that we began operating with about 12 years ago, and it represents a commitment that we've made to being good stewards of the environment and of the earth. To some people, this is only a bus, but to bus nerds like me and to some of you out there, it represents a lot more. It represents the loving and it's kind of the lifeblood of Unitrans. I get kind of choked up thinking about this, but nonetheless, no one would dispute that. The real stars of this organization and of this program are the people that keep it going, the employees, the supporters, and I want to honor some of those folks today. Since I don't plan on running for political office at any time soon, I'm going to try to thank some people, and I know I'll forget some people, so if I forget to say thank you to you, I apologize up front. First off, I want to thank Bob Black. Where's Bob? There he is. Bob Black is the founder of Unitrans. He was the ASUCD president in 1966 and 67 who came up with the idea of this crazy idea of operating buses in town. And he's come here all the way from Crescent City, and I want to thank Bob for being here. Bob also was a city council member in the 70s and a mayor, and he helped foster this great relationship that we have with the city of Davis today. Next, I want to recognize some elected officials, and here's where I'm really going to screw it up, so I apologize up front. I know we've got Mariko Yamada from the County Board of Supervisors. She's been a strong supporter of ours. Thank you. Also, we have Stephen Souza, Davis City Council member, right next to Mariko. Thank you. Let me see if I can see any other folks that are elected. We also have a representative from Lois Wolk's office. Let's see, where I saw her earlier. There she is right here. I want to thank her for coming here. And I also want to thank Lois for her support both as a California Assembly member as well as her time in office as a city council member for the city of Davis and as a mayor. She's always been a very strong vocal supporter of Unitrans. Some other folks I want to recognize is I think Chancellor Vanderhoff is even here, so I want to thank him for stopping by and support that the administration has given us over the last 40 years. And I think we've got somebody from Senator Mike Machado's office, so I want to thank again Senator's office for the support he's given us both at the local and the regional level. Let's see, are there any other folks that I know I'm going to miss some, so I'm looking around and I'm all of a sudden blind. I can't see who I'm looking for, but I know Mark Champagne is here, right over here. Mark Champagne is the business manager for ASUCD. He's a great boss, and I got to say that he's a good friend too. So I appreciate his mentorship. I also want to recognize some of the Unitrans career staff. I'll just have them raise their hands, and I know they're here. First, from our division managers, Anthony Palmier, he's our administration manager. Scott Weintraub, He's our operations manager over here. Thank you, Scott. And Dave Orca. Dave Orca from our shop. He's our maintenance manager. Let's see. I also want to recognize our support and our operations staff. Rosemarie Romano, Lisa Brackney, Lisa right up front here, and Jen Tucker. I think I saw Jen here too somewhere. Jen's our biggest fan. That's great. And last and not least are the folks in the shop who keep this very unique and diverse fleet of buses running, keep them moving. Doug Hickey, I don't know if Doug's here. I see Sean Shockey's here. Andy Wiley. I don't see Kurt Musselman, he's another one of our mechanics. Eric Stenplatsen, Michael Vergara, and I don't know if Chris is here either, but I want to thank them. Again, this bus here was converted by our staff from an old 1950 diesel engine to a modern compressed natural gas engine. So it's my hat's off to those folks for doing that. Finally, I really want to recognize the real rock stars here, and those are the student managers who make this thing happen. Without these folks and the student managers who preceded them, there's no way we could operate. There's no way this could have happened. These men and women are true leaders in every true sense of the word. They lead our 225 undergraduate students in doing what we do. And it's amazing you think about the growth over the last 40 years. When we started, we were about 25 employees. Today, we're 225. Some other interesting facts. Oh, where's Gene? Gene's here too. Gene's our computer guy. There he is. Good. All right. Thank you. Good job. Sorry about that, Gene. These folks, when we started our first year of service, we carried about 10,000 people. Today, we carry over 3 million. And like I mentioned, we carried 48 million over the last 40 years. We've had exponential growth since about 1990, so it's pretty amazing to look at those numbers. But I'm going to ask these folks to come on up, and I ask you to hold your applause till they're all up here, if you would. Amanda Lopez, I'm not sure if she's here. She's our payroll supervisor. I don't see her out there. Dustin Gear, he's our business office manager. He's driving a bus right now, I know that, so he couldn't be here. Chris Ramirez, our planning and marketing manager. Come on up here, Chris. Hope Martin, she serves as our support services manager. I haven't seen her out here. She might be in class or working too. Denise Valoria, I'm not sure if she's working too. Okay, she's conducting right now. She's our conductor manager. Caroline Deacon is our marketing supervisor. Jonathan Sanders, affectionately known as Tiny. Tiny is our outreach and retention coordinator. I don't see, is Josh Landis here? He may be working too. Josh is he oversees our route training program. Chris Boshin, I know I saw Chris here earlier. Chris is our previous operations manager and is now our special services, specialized transportation services director and oversees Tipsy Taxi. Tim Frazee. Tim Frazee, I saw Tim. Come on up, Tim. Tim's our operations manager, and this is probably one of the most difficult positions in our organization. So my hat's off to Tim for keeping this thing moving. I'm also going to ask Cynthia Tolentino to come on up. Cynthia, she helped in so many ways to help plan these events, and believe me, there's a lot of work that goes into that, and she was very helpful in putting these together. And last, but certainly not least, is Christy Marsden. Where's Christy? Christy is our human resources manager. Again, probably one of the two hardest jobs to do, probably one of the most thankless too, but thank you for the work you do. I present to you our student manager group. Thank you very much. Now Christy serves in a very, like I said, a very complex and thankless job, but she's been chosen by her peers to recreate the double-decker, the christening that occurred back in November 1967, when the first two double-deckers arrived on a freighter from San Francisco, and a couple drivers went down there and drove them back up to Davis. So in November 1967, we found a picture of it, actually, and it's in the front of Dateline. It's a picture of the buses being christened, so we're going to recreate that right now. So Christy, if you would do the honors, please. We also have an alumni sign up over here. So if you're an alumnus, please come over and sign up so we can keep in touch with you. Again, thank you very much.
Yeah, why don't you guys...
Wait.
Wow. Ready?
The lip words. All right.
Tear it. Yeah, and now you have to get on.
Backpack's off. Doesn't bite. Come on. Craig,
Craig,
the first
get on.
one. Get on there.
You're on it.
Christy's on.
Yeah. We're doing.
Mr. Hines, how are you?
I don't need to be created.
Right, good to see you.
Job, and I remember Mark and I were interviewing with a couple of students, and Wally, I think you'll notice he's very vocal and very opinionated, and I just come through this personnel action and I interviewing Wally, and I'm going, oh my God, what do we do? But Mark and the students said, Jim, just it'll work. This is our guy, and we had to struggle to get him here. But he did, and he literally saved the double-deck buses for a period of years. I was putting together a plan to phase them out because we just couldn't maintain them, and Wally came on board, and with the help of a number of the student mechanics that I see in the room tonight, pulled that whole thing back online and got the double decks back up and running, and from the point that Wally arrived, our relationship, I think we made a great team, and I've always appreciated the work that he did, and I think I'm going to end my comments and pass it on.
Thanks, Jim. One thing I want to mention, when I took the job in 2004, I talked to Jim shortly thereafter, maybe in the first week or two, and Jim described it as a house of cards, just that we have so many pieces of this thing and how it stays together, and you pull out that wrong card and the whole thing can just come crashing down, and quite frankly, it's the students that keep it together. Their enthusiasm and their dedication keep this thing going. We hit setbacks, we were able to take a quick shift, and we're flexible and can make the change pretty quickly, and I credit Jim with developing that model. So,
well, it did change some. I remember one of the, I could come up with these stories, but when I first got here, it was sort of the kind of thing where you really didn't know what was going on. We didn't have two-way radios. We didn't have any of the equipment that's there today. And I'd get a call in the middle of the night saying, one of your buses is sitting down in the dead-end street here in South Davis. Yeah. And I'd get out of bed and run out to the shop and count the buses, and I'd go, I guess there is one missing. And so I'd wander out to South Davis, and sure enough, there's this bus sitting at the end of the street, but the drivers didn't know what to do. It wasn't break down. They figure out that, this is probably as far as it was going to go, and so there you go.
That's great. I'm going to turn it over to Wally now. I've got a question for Wally. Until the early 1980s, all Unitrans buses were maintained by Fleet Services here on campus, but however, the double-deck buses had fallen into disrepair, as the single-deck buses that we'd been purchasing from other agencies were being used more and more as kind of the backbone of our service. And as Jim mentioned, Wally was hired really to see if we can resurrect these things. And Wally, tell us about the fleet when you started in 1985 and some of the technological changes that we underwent over the next 20 years and during your tenure.
Well, they've been quite amazing, the technological changes that's happened, but going back to 84, we had 8 double-deckers, 2 of the Daimler Fleet lines, and the rest, as you know them today, are the old London RT vintage buses, and we had one that was running at the time when I came on board, and all the others had been red tagged by the CHP. And they were sitting in the field. We didn't have a shop in them days. We were sharing a repair place with Fleet Services, you know. So to do the maintenance, we lifted the buses up. Jim kindly enough managed to get some money together. He bought us a forklift. So we lifted the front end of the buses up with the forklift, and we crept underneath them with creepers and oilskins on during the winter time. And then to build engines, we put them on a pallet, and then when the rain came down, we run them to the nearest shed in Fleet Services till the rain stopped, and then we come out and we kept on rebuilding them. So that's how we sort of survived in the old days. And Unitrans, the little operation that we were sort of like an octopus. We were always knocking on somebody else's door with these long tentacles, especially with Sacramento Regional Transit. They were like our big brother. So if we ever needed anything, we went knocking on their door, and the general manager, the maintenance manager, I should say, that in them days was Mike Cook, and he always sort of had a kindled sort of friendship with Unitrans, and any time I asked him for something, he'd shake his head, walk away, and say, well, we'll see what we can do. Just bring your pickup truck down tomorrow. And sure enough, he always came through for us. And there's the same thing a little bit with YOLO, but more than likely, it was always SAC RT. And through the years, we've even bought some of the older buses. Jim and I, we didn't have too much money. Well, I should say he didn't have any money. You know, we had just had the skills to fix whatever we had. And I think we had 19 buses in them days. And they were pretty rickety. But having come on board, I started a program to get the RTs back on the road. And I took the worst one, which was 1014. I had to talk about tonight, actually. And that's the one that's just been retired just this year, right? I think 1014's off the road for good. So I started this refurbishing program at the same time as bringing the rest of the fleet up to scratch, you know. And it was a pretty exciting time. I had a wonderful time at Unitrans. If you could work in a job and enjoy it, you wasn't really working, as they say. And I wasn't. And I had a lot of interaction with Jim. I didn't see Mark too much, but he knew what was going on. And although he was the leader of the band, but Jim was the guy that I had interaction with. And through the years, we progressed. And we bought buses from everybody you could think of. East Shore Lines in San Francisco, we bought used buses from them. We bought used buses from San Diego Transit. And I remember the buses we bought from San Diego, they didn't meet ADA. And they were the new look GMs, and I says to one of the shop crew, well, we've got to put handicap lifts in them. Well, how are we going to do that, Wallow? So we're going to cut a hole in the side of the bus, and we're going to put lifts in them. So the first day, we attempted to cut this hole in the side of the bus. It was probably about 5 foot by 4 foot, something like that. And the guy that was doing it, it was one of the career mechanics, and he was doing it with a grinder. And after he'd finished cutting it, after a day and a quarter, it was just covered like a snowman, but it was all aluminum. And I says, oh my goodness, that's no good. And it's taken us a day and a half to cut a hole in the side of the bus. We've got 7 of them to do. So I went down to Granger's and I bought a plasma cutter, and it took probably an hour to do the same job with a plasma cutter. It was just like cutting butter. So those are the sort of things we did in the past to bring the fleet up to scratch and make it ADA compliant. And then we got the first shop built, and then the second shop come along, and where am I going now? 1996, we went to alternate fuels. Jim comes down and tells me, well, you know, we'll get more money, we'll get more respect if we go to this alternate fuel program. And I says, okay, well, you know, if you want to go there, it's your choice. Well, can we make it work? I said, we can make anything work, you know. We'll make it work. So we ended up with 16 buses. 15. I think we ended up with 15 buses and no fueling station, because the fueling station hadn't been complete. So we had some issues there, which we were fueling everywhere we could for a few months, 2 or 3 months for the fueling station. Then we had issues with the fueling station. The contractor wasn't getting paid, so we wouldn't come and repair the thing. And it was a back and forth situation. And the fueling station never was a turnkey situation. So, and I wasn't into CNG. I was just a maintenance. That's what I was hired for. I was a maintenance manager. But I says, well, we've had everybody to look at it and it's still not working. So I says, I'm going to have to get into this thing and make it work. So for about a year, I think, I tore that thing down blindfolded, those CNG compressors. And I learnt a lot, and I experimented with them, because we had an overflow of oil getting into the fuel. So there's some of the things I did I don't want to go into now, because it's a big, long story, but it took me a lot of time, and I come in on my weekends too. But the university was all sympathetic to what I was doing. And eventually, we got them so they would run for 2 or 3 weeks instead of 1 week. Because every week I was tearing the compressors down.
And these compressors, they were made in Italy. Only 3 of them exist in the United States, and they went out of business.
Yeah, we got 2 of them, by the way.
We have 2 of the 3.
And when I was called in Italy, they were saying, well, we'll send a man over. I says, no, you won't. I said, you just tell me what I want. And they said, no, we have to see what you're doing. So anyway, when I finally sorted them out, and incidentally now they've just been running for 2.5 years without anybody looking at them, till I went there just a few weeks ago. And but that's a no-no, but we're going to sort that out anyway. But shows you how they became reliable to what they were. We were running from 1 week to 1 week. Every week we're tearing them down. So now they're pretty reliable. And when the Italians found out, Nuovo Pannoni, and they said, well, you know, we want to know what you've done to those compressors to make them reliable. And I says, I'm not going to tell you. I said, when I needed help, I couldn't get any of your engineers over here. I says, now I've sorted it out for you. You want me to tell you? I says, it's not going to happen. So anyway, as it is today, we're still left with the Pannoni compressors. They got a slang name for them. They call them the pigs. It's spelled P-I-G-N-O-N-E, Pannoni. So anyway, they still have them today. They're running all right, I believe. Okay. And here we are with the CNG. Jim took us down a road. Most of the buses are all CNG now. The older Detroit engines, I think they're all off the road, which are Gilligs. And we've sort of started a little hydrogen freeway. We haven't quite got there yet, but we got the hydrogen compressor, but it's not hooked up. So if you see Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger coming in and pumping hydrogen, it's not from that compressor, because it don't work. But maybe in the future, we'll get it hooked up. You know, we'll have to get him over to campus a few more times and get the thing hooked up. So I think that's all I've got to say.
I want to just give a little anecdote. One of my favorite things is working with a student organization. These kids their brains are going 90 miles an hour, and they come up with these ideas. And I like to tell people, we get lots of ideas, and some of them are pretty good. But I always love coming up with these ideas, and I go to Wally and I say, hey, Wally, I got this idea about something. He look at me and go, So I imagine Jim remembers that too. And Wally he's grounded. He could say, well, these are the things we're going to have to deal with. He's been working with this real varied equipment for so long, he can look at the problem and just say, let's look at this, and let's look at the alternatives and see what the impacts are going to be in his own special way. And you hear his voice, so it's always magical no matter what the answer is.
I'd like to add, Unitrans couldn't have got as far down the road as quickly as we got without having the student population. You know, the students I had in that shop were absolutely outstanding. And if they didn't have the skills and ability, which most of them didn't have when they came on board, I said, if you've got ambition, I said, I'll teach you the skills. I said, if you want to learn, I'll teach you everything you want to know. And we did, and we couldn't have done it without the student shop help. And I think there's as many 13 or 14. When I was there, I used to hire at least 8 students, and then they graduate, and then I hired another 8 students. And it was absolutely brilliant, the work that they did. And it shows today. That one bus out there, I think it's 2819. I know it's the only compressed natural gas RT in the world. That's a Regent 1950 model. It may be the only double-decker bus natural gas in the world of all buses ever been manufactured. But I know it's the only RT in the world. And that was done by Unitrans shop personnel, career, and the student body. They're absolutely amazing kids.
When Wally retired in 2005, the bus is outside, you'll get a chance to look at it afterwards. There's a plaque inside dedicating that bus to Wally and his mentorship of the student crew. It's amazing that they could do something like that. We couldn't take that to Creative Coach Works or some other agency and say, here's a 1950 bus, put a modern engine in it. They would look at it and say, what? There's no way. These guys will say, we can do it.
Yeah, I went to the CHP looking for guidelines, and they said, well, we don't know what you're bloody doing, Wally. He says, you know, you just carry on with it. So I just followed the National Code 52, and Jim got me the monies from, I think it was Sacramento Clean Air Management District or something like that. And they paid $52,000, which bought the John Deere engine. First of all, we had to coerce an engine manufacturer to give us a CNG engine, which is very hard to do. You have to know what you're doing, because they're not just going to throw CNG